And good evening, everybody. Welcome to Going nuCLEar, presented by Buzz Sports CLE. I am Ethan Greenberg, along with my co-host, Madison Delaney, and our new co-host, Megan Donovan. Megan, thank you very much for joining the crew here.
Absolutely.
It is awesome to have you on board. We are, as I said, presented by Buzz Sports CLE. You can follow me on Twitter at egreen4325. You can follow Madison at madtravels24, and you can follow Megan on Twitter at megand44. So, folks, we've been off a couple weeks here. We had this big football game going on, not involving our Browns, not involving our Browns, folks. The Super Bowl. Guys, what are your thoughts? Were you pleased with the game, disappointed with the result? What are you thinking?
I thought it was a good Super Bowl. I was glad it wasn't like a total blowout like some of the others. I was like, all right. I don't really like the Chiefs, so whatever. But hey, it was exciting.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely exciting. Madison, what were you thinking as you were watching?
I thought the game for the most part was great. The ending was just like, eh. It was a hold. He admitted to it, whatever. But in that kind of game, you want to give them a chance to go down the field and see, take it out of the officials' hands a bit. So I was a little disappointed in the call. I know he said he held. I didn't really feel like it was necessarily worthy of a flag. I would have liked to see the Eagles get a shot to go down, just for the excitement of it, because it was pretty back and forth for the most part, and that kind of took all the air out of the stadium, I think, when it was just run the clock down and kick a really short field goal. So,
yeah, definitely. I mean, I see your point about wanting to, maybe see them have an opportunity to go downfield. And you don't want it to be an official making a call in that situation. Unfortunately, it is what it is. And I guess you get my perspective is you got to call the game the same at the beginning as you do at the end. And so if the guy commits a penalty, the guy commits a penalty. It is what it is. Yeah, definitely a great game. It was competitive all the way, and that's about all you can ask for. Although that was bizarre what was going on with the field conditions and guys having to change their cleats. That's bizarre to me, and I just don't know what was going on there. I heard them say something about them spray painting the field. Do you guys have any clue, or did you read anything that discussed that?
I thought
I
it
saw
was
the field painting.
Yeah, because they put those bigger logos like in between like the 20, like on either side. So you had like the 20 to I don't know, maybe like 30 or 35, which I don't think they usually do, right? They only have like that NFL center logo. And I think that covered like a huge span and it was painted, obviously. So I think that was giving them issues. I don't know. I knew when they were having the game at Arizona, I know they always have that field always looks like trash when they play. Even at home, it's always torn up, and I don't know.
It's the roll it out to get sun, right?
It's in they kept rolling it in and out and giving it sunlight every 5 hours. I'm like, Jesus,
Didn't help though. Didn't help.
No, it absolutely didn't. It certainly hurt the flow of the game, and I don't know. The NFL should be pretty upset with itself for having field condition play into any part of the game. That should be the last thing.
Especially for the Super Bowl, though. I mean, do you remember when they had to cancel the Hall of Fame game? It was I think it was when it was Dallas and the Packers. And it was up to the game time, and they just called it off because the paint that they used. I remember that.
Yes, I do recall that. And actually, interestingly enough, you want to talk about just ultimate fails on game day management. That's right up there. I was witness to a hockey game here in Richmond that I was calling, and the Richmond franchise was supposed to host the All-Star game the next season. Well, for whatever reason, they painted the ice and incorrectly. Whatever they did was wrong. So they're trying to like scrape up ice. I don't know. It was the biggest cluster I've ever seen, in person. That is, and yeah, someone needs to get fired for that. I hear people who don't like to get talk about being fired, but you know, um, yeah, I'm all about holding someone being held and accountable when you've got one job, and so talking about things and firings here. It's been a busy week around the Browns complex in Berea, and Mike Prefer.
You're fired.
Yeah, yeah, you're gone, and then earlier we had Joe Woods a week ago or so.
You're fired.
Yeah, you're fired. Thank you, Mr. Burns. Appreciate that. That is excellent. So yeah, so you got Mike Prefer out of there. You have Joe Woods out of there, and now we have added Jim Schwartz and Ray Ventrone. Ventrone is a Cleveland guy, and he's coming from the Colts. They rank the top, from what I've read, they rank the top 10 in each of the last 3 seasons on special teams. And he was a player for the Browns special teams, 2009 to 2012. How important is it for the Browns to improve their special teams? We're not talking, let's focus on the special teams here.
I think absolutely. I think besides the defense, I would have said special teams would have been the most important thing. I think it was atrocious this season. And I like, even in just terms of like, I don't even think they really like, besides like the kicker, because like I don't really know how like that differs from like a special teams. I feel like that's more of like a specialty of the special teams. But like even like returning and kick returns, and I mean at the beginning of the season we had guys that would like just muff like everything. I was just like, what's happening? And I don't think they had I don't even really think they had a true idea of like who to put back there. I think they just wanted someone who could like catch it and catch it well. And I mean, covering kicks was awful. I mean, it was so bad. So
yeah, so you're all, what you're saying is you're in favor of it.
I am. I was honestly, I was a little shocked at like how late they let him go, like through the off season. I thought he was gonna be amongst like the Joe Wood, like around the Joe Woods firing. I really, really did. And I was I know like him and Kevin Stefanski have like a tie together. And I was like, oh, maybe it's just like a buddy situation, like, listen. But I was a little shocked. And then like that came out and I was like, wow, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Madison, what do you think? I mean, we this season had its ups and downs and moments. And I think
I mean, the Jets game alone, right, is like reason enough to let a special teams coach go. But it is like an interesting thing because it's like, how much does that really matter? And I mean, I think you could point to like a game or two where it probably lost us the game. The other one, and I forget who it was against, where we had a recovery, but we were like laying out of bounds on it. Even though we had recovered the onside kick. So, we ended up not getting
the Patriot game. Patriots.
Yeah. Whatever game it was. I was, like that's another one where it's like you've got to, coach people to know. And it was so unnecessary for him to touch the ball or the player. And it's like those types of things where the attention to detail didn't seem to be there. But how much it like hinges on wins and losses, the special teams, like it's just such a hard like position on the staff to evaluate like its importance. I mean, obviously it's important. I guess everything's important, but to like say how much it'll move the needle, it's I think hard to say. I think the bigger needle move will be on the defensive side of the ball. Hopefully.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean the Jet. First of all, I guess we'll check back with Megan here momentarily, but we'll keep it rolling. The Jet game was they were talking about it the other day because it was recently, it was on this week on NFL Network, and they mentioned it wasn't just the onside kick at the end of the game. It was a fake punt on 4th down
Yeah.
early in the game, and that led to a touchdown.
Yeah.
And then let's see, where were the other ones? Then we didn't recover the onside kick. So that was two things. And then Cade York missed the extra point. And let me add Megan back if she is back. So yeah, I mean, it wasn't one thing. It wasn't two things. It was three different things all in one game. And you had the defense going on with the botched blown coverage right after we score the touchdown. I mean, how many different ways can you possibly screw things up? Okay. All right. So anyway, we'll keep on moving forward here, as I think both you and I are watching the Cavs score roll on here, and I don't know, something to get into here. You got a great opportunity tonight, and it's like, without me being able to see the game, you have eyes on it. I don't. It seems like this is a huge opportunity for a guy, place for guys to step up. And one thing that we're still having problems with is covering the 3-point shooters and giving up that shot. Do you think that's just still just a philosophy, a JB Bickerstaff philosophy, kind of like, we're going to let them shoot the three, and more likely than not, the percentages play in our favor?
Yeah, I mean, I think a little bit of it's philosophy. I don't know how much you can read into tonight's game, because Denver is the best 3-point shooting team in the league, and the number one offense. And they've honestly held them in check for a pretty good bit. I think they shot somewhere in the 30s in the first half. I think it's still in the low 100s right now. Well, 111, 109. So, ultimately, I think they're doing an okay job on the defensive side of the ball, but they're all about protecting the paint. And I think I can't remember where we were playing before, but I think the arena laughed at Jared Allen for celebrating a defensive 3-second call.
Yes,
and that's just what they do. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was in Philadelphia, and that was, that was hilarious. When he was celebrating that, and what was bad about that is that the national announcers seemed to be clueless as to what was going on and really didn't know our team. And to be honest, I mean, I guess I didn't specifically know, but the whole thing about that, and the story obviously came out later, and him, with him talking about kind of like JB saying, look, they're not going to call it every time, and so on and so forth. So I mean, that was kind of interesting. It was bad that they came out so lackadaisical, and they obviously made a furious comeback, only to fall short. It was good effort, and we've talked about that all season long. The effort that they put in for Bickerstaff, and it's unmatched. Definitely was a tough pill to swallow there to Philadelphia. And this is a big game here tonight, even though it's not a conference game. You're playing the team that's the number one seed in the Western Conference, and certainly it would be good to steal a game from Denver. And it really shouldn't even about being stealing a game. We're playing at home, and we're supposed to be one of the best teams, but we shall see. So kind of flipping back here, to the Browns. So they also hired Utah State University defensive coordinator, and I had to look. I saw the name pronunciation. I was thinking, oh, it's Ephraim. No, it's not Ephraim. It's Ephraim Banda. And unfortunately, since I am perpetually 12 years old and watch a lot of Family Guy, the one time he's like, oh, it's Ephraim the retarded rabbit. Making fun. It was like a Bugs Bunny-esque character. And so now, if they ever talk about this guy, that's all I'm going to think about is Ephraim the retarded rabbit. But he does have 11 years of collegiate coaching experience, 2 years as defensive coordinator. Utah State, that builds a lot of confidence. And then 5 seasons as the safeties coach for the Hurricanes down in Miami. So that's good. Okay, I think Megan is back. Let us add her back in.
Oh, sorry about
Meg-
that.
No, that's all right. That's all right. We were talking.
Blacked out.
Dude, that's no good. We can't have that. Yeah, we were just talking a little Cavs here and talking about the addition of Ephraim Bonda to coach the safeties coach, and the Browns certainly needed that. The defensive backfield, whether now this is open for interpretation, and I'd like your insight on this. Was it so much the specific people and players in the defensive secondary, or was it again? Did it fall back on the Joe Woods scheme?
I would have to say it probably started with the Joe Woods scheme. I think it was. I mean, I know, like, I think we saw a bit of it of beginning of last season, and then they started, really coming together at the end, and then it kind of just happened again. And I don't know if it just was too complicated or just confusing. And then I think at that point it just kind of trickled into the players and just kind of caused a big issue. I mean, obviously injuries didn't help. We had a lot of like main starters go down early in the season, and I just don't think it was there for the other guys to pick it up, and it was kind of just a train wreck from.
Well, that's one way.
Yeah, I don't know how else to put it. I probably should not say train wreck. I feel like that's too soon, and we should not say it. So I am so sorry. Wow.
No, that's all right.
All right. Well, it was a disaster. I don't even know. It was bad.
It's all good. You didn't stick your foot in your mouth, and it's all good. No, I understand exactly what you're saying. That was pretty putrid overall, and Madison and I discussed it throughout the season that it's just, that was not good. And you had a lot of finger pointing, and you can't have that. You got to have selfless team players.
Exactly. And I think you had so many guys just playing for themselves, and I see that like so much on the Browns like defensive side, like, and it grinds my gears because you're just like, look at like a really good team. I mean, all of those guys, they don't care. They just want to win, and everyone's like, oh, I want to be like defensive player of the year, or whatever. Like, and you're just like, okay, cool. Like, yeah.
Well, now, Megan, are you saying you mentioned specifically defensive people wanting to be defensive player of the year? Now, my question is this: do you believe and do you think watching during the season and over Myles Garrett's career that he is not a team player? Or is it something that manifests itself not necessarily in the game, but in the locker room?
So I will admit, and people can come at me all they want, I am not a Myles Garrett fan.
Okay, fair enough.
I think throughout every season, I just don't get it. I don't get the hype. I think he starts off great, and you're like, wow, and it's just like the same. Like, I don't know. I don't get the hype. I understand. Okay, he's double teamed every play. He's held every play, but like so is every player in the league. I bet. Like at some point, like and I don't get the hype, and I feel like for him, he's really turned into kind of like one of those individual guys.
Okay.
And I feel, and I know a lot of people got like really ticked off when Clowney came out and made that statement. And I don't agree that it was great of him to do that and whatever. But I mean, obviously he has a point. Like, I don't know.
Right. Well, I don't know. Well, first of all, Madison, what do you think? Do you think that's fair? Is that a fair assessment? I mean, first of all, great thing about our discussions here, this show, everyone can have an opinion. It's all good. No problems here. No hard feelings. I don't know, Madison. I'll give you my thoughts, but what are your thoughts on Myles Garrett and too many guys being individuals and not being team players, specifically in this case, discussing Myles Garrett.
Yeah, I mean, I think called into question on the show even before, like some of his leadership tactics. Like I don't always love the stuff he puts out in the press, things like that. As far as that, like, I mean, when you're the best there is, you have an ego to you, and you have to, I guess, in some regard. But if he wants that MVP, he has to have a team that's going to the playoffs on a consistent basis. And I think part of that is him stepping up in the leadership areas that I think he's maybe not excelled in as well as maybe he has on the field, to bring everybody up to your level. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how it goes with Schwartz at DC, because he usually gets guys like record numbers of sacks. To see kind of what he does, and if the line, maybe we get somebody opposite of him that he likes, that's, maybe not Clowney, obviously won't be Clowney, but yeah, I mean, you do have to have the ego, but you also have to, be a guy that brings everybody else along. And I think that's the part where he maybe hasn't done as well as what I would like to see out of him.
Yes, I hear exactly what you're saying about not bringing the other guys along with him, and it's very interesting. You always hear about offensive guys going on in the offseason, like Deshaun or even Baker, taking their wide receivers and other teammates. They go on kind of they do bonding, and maybe that's not just that. That's not Myles' forte. I think that, like, part of it is the personnel around him doesn't make it easy when they are not, they can't force the other team to, single cover Garrett. And Garrett certainly has had a few games where he's been kind of a game wrecker, but those have been far between. And they need him to do more. They really do. If they are going to be a top defensive unit, he's got to do more. He's got to be more Aaron Donald like. He's got to be, sad to say, but he's got to be more TJ Watt like. I mean, Micah Parsons. There are a number of guys that he really needs to try and be more emulate their style and what the product they put out on the field week in and week out. One bit of news here, or another bit of news right before the Super Bowl. Joe Thomas headed to Canton. He is the first member of the expansion era Browns to be selected for the Hall of Fame. So a couple of things. I was thinking about it. I'm like, okay, if there was anybody from the expansion era Browns that might be next, the only people that I can come up with, I mean, most legitimately at this point, maybe Joel Bitonio. I'd like to say an outside shot for Josh Cribbs because, what he's done, in the special teams game, but I don't know if that's going to be enough. What do you guys, is there somebody I'm missing? What are your thoughts about potential additional Hall of Fame, future Hall of Famers?
Yeah, I would guess those two guys. I mean, could you? I don't know. I can't think. Like, could you guess? Like, could you think of Joe Hayden, perhaps? I don't know. I know because he went back to.
I mean, he, to your point, and then Madison, I want to hear your thoughts on this. But yeah, Hayden, I don't know. I mean, he obviously played at a pretty good level. I don't know that he has the career stats to do it. He's a good Browns player,
Right.
but that bar is kind of low at this point.
Yeah. I mean,
but
he was
nevertheless, I mean, and then theoretically, I should throw this out there. If his motor keeps going, Chubb could be up there someday, but I don't know. Madison, what are your thoughts about potential future expansion era Hall of Famers?
I mean, I guess as far as not current players, like if you take into account where he kicked, like maybe Phil Dawson, like maybe, an outside chance. I mean, we love him. He's our kicker that we have strived to find since he left. But I don't know that he's like, I mean, it's hard for kickers to get into the Hall. So I don't think it's likely, but that would be like my outside shot, I guess, in terms of players. There haven't been a lot of great ones. The other one that I would maybe think about who played in Cleveland but then finished his career elsewhere is like Alex Mack. He had a pretty good career.
Oh, yeah, he did.
I don't know if good enough, but yeah, another one to think about, I guess. On the line, we're good on the line.
We are certainly Mitchell Schwartz. Heck of a career, definitely a heck of a career. But yeah,
won a Super Bowl with the Chiefs.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Good call. Good call. I mean, maybe it can be. Who did we have? We had Jordan Cameron. That guy was good. Can we get some more terrible tight ends in here? Where's Kellen Winslow? Let's go. Let's go.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, that guy was terrible. How about some Courtney Brown? Can I please get how about Gerard Warren?
Oh, who was the guy that got hit with the flag and decked the ref?
Well, are you saying hit with the flag or got under the flag? You mean Brandon Lee?
He the ref threw the flag and he ended up
going Orlando Brown.
Orlando Brown. Yes.
Orlando Brown. I really thought it would have come full circle that the Browns would have been able to draft his son.
Oh, yeah.
But then he went to the Ravens. I was like, dang it. I thought that would have come full circle. It would have been really good there. So we don't know yet, but there is the possibility that the Browns could get scheduled for the Hall of Fame game. So now everybody plays 3 preseason games except for the teams that play in the Hall of Fame game. They now play 4 preseason games. What are your thoughts about an extra preseason game for the Browns? Will it change anything? Is it good or bad? Do you think Stefanski will even play the starters?
I don't know. That's tough. Preseason games scare me. I always get so worried. But then I also get really ticked off when our starters only play one series out of the whole and you're like, all right, cool. But I don't know. I mean, I feel like he would almost have to. I mean, it would be like a home game, right? And it's a big deal. I think you'd have to at least play your starters for a series. And but it's so early. I don't get what they make it so early, 2 weeks before the preseason starts. I feel or a week.
Yeah,
right?
I believe it would be about a week. I don't have obviously a schedule or calendar. Well, not I shouldn't say obviously, but I don't have one of those in front of me to confer with that. But I could see both sides of the argument for and against it. Madison, where do you fall on that argument?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the starters definitely probably don't play in the first game. I mean, maybe the third game if we played 4 games. I like watching the guys at the very end of the roster fight for positions. I think it's entertaining, and I really try to make an effort to get to know those guys on the roster. So I wouldn't mind a 4th preseason game necessarily, but I mean, I'm sure the players would hate it. But as a fan, get to go watch them play in Canton. That's a thing you don't get to do all the time. So hopefully it happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that, there have been teams that, first of all, you've got the whole preseason strategy, and you've got Stefanski not wanting to play his guys versus Philadelphia. They played their players. They looked like they were ready to go. They didn't not just the joint practices, but they played in the preseason and they looked pretty darn good, and they rode it all the way to the Super Bowl and, were within, 1 possession of winning that game. So I get it. And there's always a risk of an injury on the practice field. There's a risk of injury on the field in a preseason game. There's a risk of, getting injured while you're running up the bleachers barefoot and having a teammate step on your heel. And I mean, only the Browns. Only the Browns.
Braylon Edwards.
Yes, that was very good.
They were doing a foot race or something stupid, and they cleated him.
Yeah, or you can dislocate your toe at the
Oh
Pro
yeah.
Bowl, the Pro Bowl weekend, and it's just the doom and gloom comes out as soon as these things happen, and that's just kind of sad there. But it'll be interesting to see what happens, and I for one, I welcome more football. I'm all about it. Like, I mean, it was the when the Browns came back in '99 and had the Hall of Fame game against Dallas. Man, I was excited for that. Thankfully, I didn't have a baseball game to work with the Canton baseball team at the time, so I was able to watch the Monday night game at that point. That's when it was played, but that was fantastic. So, what the next big thing in the NFL is the draft combine. And I mean, and all along as we're working toward this, we're seeing more guys get released, and it is interesting to see where we fall on the. Is it the what is one man's trash is another man's treasure? Are these guys really good? Are they cap casualties or are they retreads? Where do we fall on that? And we do have a question from the crowd here. Good to see K-pop tuning in. What about March Madness? Who's ready? We are, and we will discuss that here in the coming weeks. But for now, we're
My
gonna
heels aren't in it.
don't
My
worry.
heels are not gonna make it.
You know what, Madison? Don't be surprised by anything. Don't be surprised by anything. You never know what's going to happen. It come the conference tournament time. I can tell you a team that will not be making it from the Buckeye State.
Ooh.
Yeah, that Ohio State loses again tonight. Oh no. Oh no. And I think this is what they need to say to Chris Holtman.
You're fired.
Yeah, again, you're fired. And yeah, let's reiterate that.
You're fired.
Yeah, because it needs to happen. Yeah, so that'll be interesting, and we will definitely be talking that as we come in the next coming weeks here with college basketball winding down and all the conference tournaments going on. Megan, that was we've got the Flashes and the Zips, ready to tilt here, but they got to make it through some tough hurdles here. I was watching, and this is kind of going off topic here before we hit up the Cavs. And this is going back, all season long, but God love ESPN Plus. It is such a great thing to have to see more games. But like, what's the big idea with using local yokels to call the game on ESPN Plus, where it's essentially like the home broadcast versus you're on a national network and you're getting an impartial, unbiased opinion. I mean, it's just kind of frustrating. And we talked about, the Akron Kent State game. The people are talking about like the juice in the arena, and they weren't even there.
That was awful.
That was
I think
horrible.
that is like the most embarrassing thing. Like
Yeah.
that, like as like a like a station or whatever production could ever do. And like,
Yeah.
I mean, you don't see that like in the like a Power 5 broadcast. Right?
Exactly.
I get it. It's mid-major and it's a 9 p.m. game and whatever, but like that's a huge game, especially if you're in Ohio or whatever. That is like probably the biggest game of the year,
it
and
really is.
You have remote broadcasters.
Yeah, that was
haven't even they probably don't even know a lick about Kent State or Akron.
well, certainly one of the announcers, the color commentator, she didn't know anything. It was really, really bad. And yeah, that was frustrating. But I know that ESPN in every one of these markets have guys, have women, have people who know the sports and could do a good unbiased thing. Madison, we're talking about basketball and the coverage. So Madison, playing for Randolph-Macon in the Old Dominion Athletic Conference, down at the conference tournament, which started today.
Thanks for bringing it up.
Hey, I'm just as disappointed. Well, maybe not just as disappointed, but I was looking forward to a trip down there, possibly on Sunday to cut down the nets. But the point is, like, that first game, they give, the higher seeds team the opportunity to do the broadcast. And, in that instance, you try to be unbiased. That's what they have tasked you with. And I think that's what you need to do. There's a certain level of professionalism that goes into it. And that's all I'll say on that. So yeah, we'll leave it there. We'll leave it at that. But so the Cavs, big game tonight. And, Madison, you're the only one of the three of us who actually got to watch the game. And, all right, so they lose 115-109, first game out of the All-Star break to the Denver Nuggets. What were your initial thoughts and reactions about the team in tonight's matchup and as they come out of the All-Star break?
Yeah, I mean, it's disappointing not to win because I thought they played pretty well. They had a stretch in the first quarter. They got into some pretty serious foul trouble. There were, I think, 3 guys with 2 fouls pretty early. I think they were shooting in the bonus with something like 7 or 8 minutes left in the first quarter, which is not ideal, of course. And we got down. I think we were down by 10 or 12 at one point. And so, they rallied back. Evan Mobley had a great game, which is what you want to see out of him. He came up with nothing in the fourth, which is not what you want to see of him. And I didn't get to watch that as closely since we were on, but it's one thing that I'll probably go back and watch. Did we go away from him? Did he just not hit shots? Kind of what was the deal there? And early, Garland and Mitchell were both just not even close to hitting anything. And so to rally with them not playing particularly well, Mitchell was really good defensively. He had a bunch of steals, but offensively to not get as much as we typically get from them early, I thought they rallied really well. It's a good team. It's the number 1 offense against the number 1 defense. I will take absolutely 7 games of that in the NBA Finals if we should be so lucky. So I feel like it was a good showing. I think coming off of an All-Star break, it's always a little tough. But, they've got probably 14 to 15 games that you want to win out of the last group. If you can win more, great. There's not a lot of back-to-backs. They have one tomorrow night, but not a ton of them left in the season. I think they played the most games of anyone so far in the league, which is interesting. I didn't know that. They put a graphic up today. So they should have plenty of rest, and they've got, I think, the easiest schedule left. So you've got to win the ones you have to win, and then you've got to win the ones that maybe you shouldn't win. They've got a back-to-back in Miami, or not a back-to-back. They have 2 games in Miami with the day in between. That's a hangover game, literally. So hopefully they can pull at least one of the 2 off, but probably a scheduled loss there. So, we'll see. Win the games you should win, and win them handily, and then win some of the games that maybe you shouldn't win, and we'll be in good shape come playoff time.
Yeah, I agree. What are your thoughts here? So, well, first of all, we've got 21 games, right? Or now 20 games, and we're sitting at 38. And well, let's see. With this loss, so we're 38 and 24 now. How many, realistically, out of the last 20? How many do you think we need to win? How many do you think we will win?
You definitely get to 50, I think. I don't think they have any problem getting to 50. I think 52 is the goal in my mind. That's, I think, what I put out at the beginning of the season or close to it. It's a tough Eastern Conference. There are a few tough games left on the schedule, but most of them being against teams that are definitely tanking. As we get towards the end of the year, I think 12 is very reasonable to get to 50. And then steal a few more and let's go over 50 is what I hope for them anyways.
So the big news over the past couple of weeks here, right before the All-Star break, heck, by halftime of the Philadelphia game, was Kevin Love asking for the buyout and the Cavs so graciously extending him that Olive Branch, and they said,
You are the weakest link. Goodbye.
yeah. So he's gone. And I mean, he was beloved, obviously. And I know I've heard some people talking some trash about him. I've heard some people talking some trash. Megan, do you have any, strong feelings one way or another about Kevin Love and his legacy in Cleveland?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't really have anything against him. I feel like he was a huge part of just that great run, and I think he was, just like that really elite veteran figure. I don't know. He's old now, right? Like, let him just go out on his own. Like, I don't know.
Well,
I don't have beef with Kevin Love.
you've got no beef with him. I mean, I
Oh,
will say
he always put in effort.
for the most part, except for those few games where he was
Yeah.
pouting. About what was that? Was that last season that he was pouting? No, it was the season before.
I think so, yeah.
Things weren't going well, and that was not so good. And again, I've heard people kind of bringing that up, and I'm like, you're not wrong. And so it'll be interesting to see how all the pieces fit. But then we did bring in Danny Green, and he's coming off of a big injury. But how is he going to impact the rotation?
I mean, probably minimally. I mean, the thing with like buyout candidates, and partly why I don't really get the like fear of Kevin Love going to Miami, but part of the buyout candidates is that they don't move the needle that much, right? Like, he's coming off of injury. He's also a bit older. He historically is a good 3-and-D guy. He's shot very well in the playoffs, which is something that you want on your roster. He did not play tonight, which I don't know if that was because it's a back-to-back or if it was a coach's decision. I haven't looked. I don't think he played. But, I mean, it's helpful to have another guy that's been there to kind of replace the Kevin Love that you lost, who's also been there, because this is a team that hasn't really gone to the playoffs. I mean, Mitchell has, of course, on his own previously, but not the rest of the guys, really. So to have that experience is good. I think he's good for the vibes, which we all love the vibes. So that's important. But I mean, it's not like he's going to make a big difference unless he goes on one of those really like hot shooting nights that he had, in the playoffs way back when. I don't see that happening, but it could.
Right, or scores 34 points in one quarter like he did a few years back. Yeah, and so he goes down to Miami, and we'll just have to see how that all plays out. I am concerned with playing Miami in those back-to-backs, just like you said, that they might be having too much fun down in Miami. I hope that the guys can stay focused because they really need to. They don't want to fall off. I mean, coming out of the All-Star break here, look, Boston, it looks like they were sleepwalking against Indiana. I mean, Indiana's a dangerous team. They win in overtime 142-138, and Memphis coming out strong so far, leading Philadelphia in the fourth. So that's always positive. So, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Although, like, I don't know. I was looking, how much can you tell, whether this is football, basketball, or otherwise, from just looking at a box score? How much can you really tell from a box score?
I hate reading a box score and only giving a box score opinion. I feel like you got to watch the game. I mean, I get the whole like numbers don't lie type of deal, but like sometimes they kind of do. And in like weird ways that you don't always think about. Like generally the team with the most defensive rebounds wins games. And that's because if they're getting defensive rebounds, the other team's probably missing shots. And like those things, it's all relative, I guess. And so I think you have to have the context of, watching the game play out and how people are meshing together. And like, same with like lineups, like you get your plus minus, but there's also sometimes just like feel of the game and like, it's maybe a little bit the analytics discussion, like how much does it matter versus like just feeling out the game kind of thing. It's a little bit similar in that respect, I guess.
Oh God, analytics, stay or go, Megan.
I would say, I don't know. I would say stay. Like, I don't know. Like, okay, so your box score question, like coming from an SID, I was an SID for close to 8 years. I like lived off of box scores. Like, I literally could read a box score and without watching a game, understand what happened. And especially like, I don't know, I can't speak for like NBA box scores, but like the ones for college hoops now, like they have a lot of like they have like your plus and minus on it now. And I feel like just by looking at the rotation and your lineup with the plus and minus, it just says like everything there. But that's just me because I had to like literally read off of them and make my game notes before and scouting reports before every game. So that's just me.
Oh, very interesting. Speaking of scouting reports, we've got an interesting question from the crowd here. I gotta assume you know K-pop here. You got to, because she's asking, what does Jimmy do in the off season? That's pretty informal.
Oh man.
And unless she's talking about Jimmy Haslam, he's busy trying to buy, percentage in the Milwaukee.
Yeah, he's probably trying to figure out like a new incentive for filling up at Pilot Flying J gas stations, like rebate. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that.
a rebate scam, huh? Nice,
yeah.
Nice.
Jimmy's lost right now. He like literally doesn't know what to do with his life.
Excuse what?
Well, like, because football's like over, so like he's just like like he like I was talking with him the other night, and I was like, man, I feel so lost. Like I miss football, and he's like, I don't know. Yeah, same. I don't know what to do. So he's busy on the farm now. He takes care of the horses and.
Nice. How many horses is he taking care of?
They have 3 horses right now.
All right. Well, tell him to be careful because we don't want any of that.
Yeah, right.
No, we had a vet, and he had a bad incident with a horse. He, for whatever reason, he made an error and went up behind the horse, got kicked in the head, and has a steel plate in his head and a fake eye. And I'm like, ah!
Jeez.
Yeah. So, we don't need him to get Christopher Reeves.
Yeah, he doesn't. No riding. He just.
Okay. Fair enough.
He just helps take care of them. So.
See, and make sure he's not. And I think for all of us fans here, as much as we love, we've talked about this before, and I bring up broadcasting. The games that Jeff Phelps had to fill in were not as insightful and didn't feel as there as when when your dad is doing the games. I don't, Madison, you probably have to listen as well when you're not when the game's not on locally, which is most of the time. Although you had the Sunday, did you have the Sunday ticket this past season?
I didn't. I mean, we get it for my dad every year, but I go to the Browns bar.
Right.
Always go back and watch the key plays and get his call for the key plays because that's my favorite part.
It really is. It really is. All right. So now that we are talking about not having the not having football, it's about that time. Spring training for the Guardians, the old Gardos. They start spring training here. Everyone's reported. And we got our first game of spring training Saturday, taking on Natty, taking on the Reds. And I mean, I don't know if how excited I am for it or not. I feel like after last season, I hope I'm not getting my hopes up too high that they're going to have a repeat of last season, that they're going to be able to have a follow-up performance to that. I mean, we added Josh Bell, but what else have we done to really shore up the team?
Have the best farm system.
Right.
There we go. And we're not talking about the horses and the cat.
No,
and the cat.
not the horses.
No, I mean, and then, okay, so I mean, it's going to be an interesting season, obviously. if the starting rotation stays intact, I mean, look at all the injuries they had to that starting rotation last season, and they still accomplished what they did and were within one game of taking out the Yankees and going to the ALCS. I mean, that's pretty darn impressive. We're going to have to wait and see if some of the guys can have a repeat performance. Megan, you're closest to you're still in the Northeast Ohio area. What's the pulse on the Guardians? Who I would have to guess Jose Ramirez around there is definitely our most popular guy. I mean, who else are the fans really, really into, around the ballpark, in the Northeast Ohio area?
I mean, I would say Jose.
I mean, Stephen Kwan, and there was a lot of personality on that team, and that was refreshing.
I can't even think of the other guy. Who's the guy who his walk up is the SpongeBob song? He hit the
Oscar Gonzalez.
Yeah, I feel like he's become like a huge fan favorite now.
Yeah, definitely. I especially with if you follow him on Twitter, David Horovsky, the dude who dressed up in the SpongeBob outfit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. That is pretty impressive. But I'm going to be curious to see what happens out of with Miles Straw. They moved him from the top of the order down to the bottom of the order. We kept him around because of his defense. It wasn't his offense because he wasn't doing squat. And I know he's got a sore. We talked about spring training just started. We've got Miles Straw with a sore knee. Although, from what I read, I think Tito said, look, if it was during the season, he wouldn't miss any time. But then we lose one. We've got a lot of, like you said, Madison, a lot of guys in the farm system. Daniel Espino, one of our top pitching prospects, he's going to be out 2 months with a right shoulder strain. And then someone else, Chase DeLauder, an outfielder, he's going to be out 4 to 5 months with a broken foot, a fracture at the base of his toe. Maybe he needs to go to Myles Garrett's toe guy and work on that.
Just go to my toe guy that fixed my feet in college. I broke both of my feet in the same general area, it sounds like. So he's the best. I think he works for the Packers now.
Nice. Maybe we should call up Zadrunas' doctor.
Yeah. Anybody. Because that's his second time, I think, right? He had that same injury last year is what I saw.
Now, I hadn't read that, but that would be very interesting if that was the same. It's like, gosh, do you think when these guys now, kind of bringing it back around a little bit to, kind of football, when you talk about analytics and this, that, and the other, when doctors see these guys, do you think there's any way to watch video or see something of them to say, you know what, this dude is going to be, or this player is going to have injury problems? Is there any way to tell that? I don't know. It's going to be, it's always something interesting. You look at the guys in the NBA who never made it because of injuries. Greg Oden comes to my mind, and you're going to have to wonder. I know there's a lot of talk about Victor Wembanyama and is his build and how he's going to survive. And even for as much success as he had and as phenomenal of a player as he is, Kevin Durant, has certainly had his share of injuries. And I don't know how much of that has to do with his body type and his slim frame. But focusing back on the Guardians, Jason Kipnis, fan favorite, retires. He was with, the Indians from 2011 to 2019 and then played a season for the Cubs. I looked up some stats on him, and I mean, I'm afar, and I didn't get to see him play in person, but maybe a couple of times. But how do you think he's going to be remembered in Cleveland? Do you think he's going to be one of these guys that just everybody loved because he was the longevity?
You could say that. I think also just coming from, I just feel like he was, on a defensive side, he was just really great. And then he was really good with the stealing bases for those stints when he wasn't close to the end of his career and batting. But again, he was just that fan favorite, I think, because he came in we drafted him, right? I thought
As far as I know, I
we did,
I
and he just kind of grew. I don't know. I don't want to say grow up with in Cleveland, but I mean he did.
well, but this and Madison and Megan, you can speak. I'm sure comment on this and speak to this. Our homegrown guys, our guys like Jim Thome, um, dudes that just they come up through the system, and then if they stick around for a while, and I think that's the same in all of our teams, the guys that come in, and do we have this problem with local guy bias? Are we just too much homers?
100%.
Well, I mean, I looked at his stats. His best season batting, 2015, he hit 305. His career high for home runs was 23, and that was in 2016. And he actually played in 156 games that season, 82 RBI. That's pretty impressive. And I was just as with his announcement of his retirement, there was stuff going on, posts on Twitter showing Game 7 of the World Series and how close he was to winning that game for Cleveland. I mean, just an unbelievable run. So, yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see as we go along how he's remembered and in Cleveland. I think that Jose Ramirez is probably maybe I would have to say Tito might be the next guy to get a statue.
Hopefully.
We shall see. Hopefully, it comes along with a holding the World Series trophy. So, with all that, I thought it'd be we're getting ready for baseball season here. We go a little baseball version of yay or oy vey. There's a lot of new rules being implemented this season in baseball, and I got 4 of them that I want to go around the table here and get your yay or oy vey on. The MLB is no longer going to allow the shift. They've changed the rules, so you can't load up one side of the infield to hose a left-handed hitter. Megan, we'll go to you first. The infield shift no longer allowed. Yay or oy vey?
I'll say oy vey.
Okay, so oy vey, you think they should allow the shift?
Yeah, just keep it how it is.
Okay. Okay. Madison, where do you stand on that?
I'm a yay. I think baseball can get a little boring. Let's bring in the offense, is what I say.
All right, fair enough. I am definitely a yay on them not allowing the shift. I think I read about this, and it's not as simple as you need to hit it to the opposite field. I mean, they know the pitchers know where their the infielders are going to be. They're going to pitch it in on the hands. They're going to make it very, very difficult. And, knowing that they've got the percentages on their side, having everybody shifted over to one side of the infield. So I am happy to see them remove that from the game, make it a little bit more fair. And I'll be very curious to see how that impacts batting averages this season and and when we get through this, the overall effect on the Guardians. All right, next topic. Yay or oy vey, Madison, the pitch clock.
I'm a yay again because I think it speeds the game up a bit. Let's not take 40 minutes to get ready to pitch. So I'm for anything that brings a little more excitement to baseball, I think. So I'm a yay.
Okay, Megan, where do you stand? Pitch clock.
I'm a yay on that.
Absolutely. I'm going to go yay on that as well. I think these guys futzing with their hat and ball, doing everything else. I'm like, all right, look, dude, we ain't got time for that. Let's go. Let's keep it moving here. I can only sit for so long. We don't have the attention span here in this country. There's also a change in the rules on the number of times in which you can make a throw over to a base, the pickoff rules. Again, trying to promote the pace of game. Yay or oy vey? We'll go back to you, Megan.
I'll say yay.
You're going to go yay on that.
Yeah.
Madison, do you have opinion, yay or oy vey, on the pickoff rule being modified?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty frustrating when a guy throws over to first like 7 times in a row. And you're like, can we please just pitch to the hitter? I know you don't want to pitch to him because he's probably going to get a hit off of you. But yeah, I am, I guess, a yay on limiting pickoffs. But I will miss the pitchers that have the yips that can't throw to first because they probably won't try to fake it to first as much.
Yeah, that is always good. I'm all about the hidden ball trick. I think we need to see more of that. But yes, I am definitely a yay on that. And lastly, this was a big thing on the Twitter sphere. The larger bases, they're increasing 15 inch, not diameter. I can't even think, but 15-inch base to an 18-inch base. Yay or oy vey? Madison, will go to you first.
Yeah, I'm an oy vey on that, I think. I did see a lot of really classic memes where the bases were like 3 times the size and it was just, jokes. So I don't actually know how much bigger they really are because Twitter just ran with it. But yeah, I mean, it's already close enough. Like in half the time, we don't even get that call right on the play at a base. So like, let's just leave it where it is and just try to focus on getting the call right instead of expanding our chance to get it wrong.
Fair enough. Megan, where do you stand on the new and improved larger bases? Yay or oy vey?
I would say oy vey.
You're gonna go oy vey. Yeah, I'm gonna go. Yeah. Well, if I've got to take a position on this, no, I'm gonna go with yay. And here's my thought process on it. I know their reasoning for doing it is I think they want to, if what I've read is correct, it's about injuries and potential, guys both trying to get their foot on the bag, this and that. So I could see where they're working, trying to reduce the injury. But B, I can see where it's like, hey, you got this larger bag, and now there's more a possible effect on getting the call right. But if they're slightly larger in size, and I think I read this somewhere, it might actually shorten very minimally, the distance between first base and second base. Okay. And could that, and so for that reason, I'm going to go yay. But talking about all of these rule changes, do you think as a whole, these rule changes will positively impact the Guardians this season? Once more around the table, Madison, your thoughts first.
Gosh, that's a hard question to answer. I mean, we saw a shift a handful of times, I feel like, last year. So, like, maybe you get a little bit of a win there. I feel like we threw a shift more often. I mean, I don't have numbers, but I feel like we put a shift on more than we necessarily faced one. The pitch clock, I don't feel like is necessarily advantageous either way. And pickoffs, I feel like you pretty rarely get anyways. I mean, like very, very rarely. So I don't really feel like any of them present an advantage for anyone either way, but I'm sure someone will come up with a way to game the system and gain an advantage.
Can you bang on a trash can? Megan, your thoughts just in general, on do you think that some of these rules will play into the hands of a team like the Guardians that doesn't necessarily hit for power? They try and go base station to station.
Just to be different, I'll say yay.
Oh, okay. You're gonna, yeah. I could. Hey, I like the contrarian point of view here. This is good. We're having debate. We're having.
Yeah, I don't know. Let's just. Maybe I hope for it. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, I think that's the thing. I would hope that this kind of a thing could play well for the Guardians. With some of their hitters not being, shifted all the time, that could make a difference, getting them on base, and with the pitcher not being able to throw as many pickoff attempts, that might give the runners an advantage and get some more stolen bases. And we already did a pretty darn good job at that last season. So, and there you have it, another fantastic edition of Yay or Oy Vey. And now I would invite you guys to tell us what is, in fact, got you going nuclear today. Megan, as you have now joined the show as one of the hosts, please tell us what's got you going nuclear.
See, I will have to say coworkers who do not pull their weight when they're
Coworkers who do not pull their weight. That yes,
Yeah.
I completely agree. That's not good. That is
No.
not a good thing to have.
And they just have excuse after excuse after excuse. So I'm just done.
Fair enough. Madison, what has you going nuclear this week?
Yeah, to piggyback on that, my mom used to have a guy who would fall asleep in like the desk behind her, and he got promoted. So sometimes it's like that, I guess. As far as what's got me going nuclear, I think watching the Cavs game, especially early on, like I mentioned, we got into foul trouble. And I just want to know when we get superstar calls for our superstar players, and like when we get treated like a top 4 team in the East, like would be top 2 in the West if we were over there. Like, we have a good record, we have good players, we have a good roster. We get officiated like we're a bottom 3rd team, and I cannot figure out why or when that will change. It's like we're giving calls to players that barely even matter in the league over like a Donovan Mitchell or, a Darius Garland particularly is like number 1 offended on this, because he drives more than like almost anybody and he barely goes to the free throw line. So I have had it with that, and I am hopeful that like this is the year that the league is like, okay, maybe we should, like the script thing that's going around Twitter, like, maybe we can update the script and like say, hey, these aren't the, bottom feeder Cavs anymore. They're back. Let's treat them as such is all I'm asking.
Hey, I think that's it's a mighty big ask. It's not an unfair ask, but that's a mighty big ask for anything to go in the Cavs favor or any Cleveland franchise when it comes to us and the referees, especially when they're throwing the flags right in the eye of our, offensive linemen. I mean, have that going for it. No, I absolutely agree with you on that 100%. Well, what has me going nuclear this week is an ongoing problem. And gosh darn it, I don't like to offend people who like to do well for their health. But what has me going nuclear this week are people riding their bicycles for leisure on busy roads. And they're not riding even in the bike lanes. They're in the middle of traffic. Okay? You're going to get killed. You're causing all kinds of havoc out here and all kinds of problems. Look, if you want to do leisure biking, you want to have some exercise, take your butt out to the trails, go to the park, ride around your neighborhood. You don't need to be in the middle of traffic. If that's your only means of transportation to get from point A to point B, hey, more power to you. But you see these people out there, they're wearing their ridiculous biking outfits. I'm glad they're wearing a helmet, but they got the helmet shaped like gosh knows what. And so seeing these guys, the leisure weekend warrior bicyclists out there in the middle of traffic, has me going nuclear this week. And yeah, I've had enough of that. I've just
don't go to Portland. Portland is like capital biking city of.
Oh no!
My dad, that was his number 1 complaint when we went, was all of the bikers in the road. So don't do it. Don't recommend it.
All right. Well, that's fair enough. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I try to take a walk in my parking lot at my office, and I, nearly get run over. So to be a bicyclist in the middle of traffic is, yeah, that's highly suspect, and that has me going nuCLEar. So once again, want to thank everybody for being here. Megan, welcome to the show. Thank you for being with us. We enjoy your opinion. Madison, thank you for being here as always. I really got to work on scheduling to not be on during the Cavs game. I mean, that kind of defeats the purpose of our show here. When we're talking about everything Cleveland, it would be like, hey, we're going to go on in the middle of the Browns game. Why don't you guys watch us instead of what? Wait a second, that doesn't work. But once again, everybody, thank you for tuning in and being a part of the show. We are presented by Buzz Sports CLE. Again, you can follow us, as you can see on the screen. You can follow me on Twitter at egreen4325. You can follow Madison at madtravels24, and you can follow Megan at megand44. You can follow the show at Going nuCLEar CLE on Twitter. Again, tell all your friends if you enjoy our content. Go to YouTube, share it with your friends, subscribe, send us your comments. Love K-pop contributing to the conversation here. Sorry we did not get to talk about who has the best food in the Mac. Maybe McDonald's, or are we talking McDowell's like on Coming to America? They have the Big Mac. We've got the Big Mick. They've got the Golden Arches. We've got the Golden Arch. Yeah. But these things happen here. But anyway, all right, folks, that's going to do it here for Megan Donovan and Madison Delaney. I am Ethan Greenberg. Thanks for watching Going nuCLEar, full-blown coverage of the land.